Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. The blackest heart, the blackest mind, the blackest man on social media, sign the black and the shine. And again, asking you to hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. That being said, I got to tell you straight away that I watched the first episode of this mini-series, Self-Made. My wife and I sat and watched it. And I was a bit appalled, and I'll tell you why. I know that colorism has been a big issue because when you grow up black, if all you have to do is be very either one end of the spectrum, very dark or very light, and you're going to know that there's colorism. All you got to do is be very dark or very light relative to where you are. It changes with region, like racism does, so too does colorism change its flavor with the region. And some have said that, colorism is always a discrimination against darker people. Well, that is true to a certain extent. I mean, colorism has followed this on a global scale. But that's not all. There's something else to it, too. In our community, there is a pushback. That is true, except in our community. In other communities, that is the truth. If there is colorism, it is always directed against the darker people. So the paranoia is actually justified. But it is justified by non-black folks. That's where it is. And even sometimes by black folks. But in reality, one of the things I found is that the men are not the ones that start this stuff off. It is the women. In Nigeria, it was so. In Ethiopia, it was so. The men did not go around looking for lighter-skinned women. That wasn't the case. The women chose to bleach. In Somalia, the men were not looking for lighter-skinned women. The women chose to bleach, and they don't prefer to marry lighter-skinned men in many cases. So now when I see them running towards white men, I'm like, you hypocrite B. Especially if he's not Muslim, because you know damn well in your community, you all could not brag about having a light-skinned man. You could marry one and get away with it and be left alone, but you couldn't boast about that. Yeah, they didn't want light-skinned men. And light-skinned men got married, but they were not the ones that the women could brag about. So when they're with a white dude now, yes, you have every right to call them names. Swirling is not okay when black women do it because of what they themselves have said. In East Africa, in the United States. That's why. When we do it, it is because that is what they wanted us to do. So that's the double standard we need, and that's why I said it a while back. But see, looking at this mini-series, I gotta say, I'm gonna tell you all the facts behind the bull. Number one, no, it is not true. There was no Addie Monroe. There was an Annie Turnbow, and I forgot her married name, which did start with an M. I forgot, sorry. But she actually let Madam C.J. Walker in real life, before she was C.J. Walker, sell her stuff for her. She trusted her enough to expand the business into Denver. That was C.J. Walker that did that. At the time, she was Sarah Breedlove. She went to Denver to expand Annie Turnbow's business. She had a different formula to take out the smell. Annie Turnbow was not interested in that formula. So when they fell out, Sarah Breedlove went ahead and sold that formula that didn't have the smell because she was free to do it. But then later on, so that her stuff would not be faked, Annie Turnbow did copyright her stuff under Poro. And under the name Poro. Now, where Poro came from is speculative. But I can't find any records of any disagreements between them based on phenotype. I can't. I can find records of disagreement between W.E.B. Du Bois and Marcus Garvey in which they brought each other's phenotypes into the argument. Yes, that I could find. But even then, they reconciled. Turns out Garvey really was a victim of W.E.B. Du Bois. But W.E.B. Du Bois repented of that, and we now know where he's buried. He's buried in Ghana. Now, if light-skin motivation is wrong for saying that we need to form another community just for light-skinned black folk and mixed-race black folk, if she's wrong in saying it, prove it. You see, most black folk, period, of any shade, are not out here trying to demonize light-skinned black folks or demonize darker-skinned black folk. It is a minority, but they're very vocal, and they've been even able to influence the making of this mini-series. We're going to have to check each other on the real. I'm going to straight tell y'all like this. I'm not ready to go off and form another community, because that means I'd have to form a community and exclude a lot of my own relatives from it, based on something that they did not choose, which is their phenotype. When they did not discriminate against me because of my phenotype. Is that fair to them? No, I'm not ready to do it. But we are going to have to fight back against not all of a phenotype, but against those who want to demonize us. No. We're not the enemy. It is these half-black or non-black so-called races that they're not classified as black. They tend to be the actual enemy. Egyptians walk around with nappy-ass hair, will call you a slave and a nigger. Now, they're not that good to each other either, but they'll turn around and call you a slave and a nigger. The Indian, nappy hair, dark as soot, will call you a Kale, Bundar. Kale just means black, but then they'll call you Bundar, meaning monkey. Where the hell they get that from? This is where the actual foes are, and they still ain't nothing compared to that damn white man. And here's the funny thing. A colleague of mine from Afghanistan, a serious practicing Muslim, actually put me up on game yesterday. He told me that Europeans actually didn't have the concept of whiteness until they got it from the Aryans in Afghanistan. I mean, the Aryans in what is now Afghanistan and Iran. Back then it was just Arya or Ariana. They had the concept of whiteness. That was them. These are the enemies. And it's time that we understand that. The enemy is not the light-skinned black person that knows they're black. No, that's not the enemy. The enemy is the really pale octoroon from some exotic land. That's where the real foe lies. That's where that global colorism that's always against darker-skinned people is practiced. What we're dealing with in the black community is white supremacy and a backlash against it. That's what we're dealing with. And I'm going to tell y'all straight up. I don't mind being demonized personally myself because I am an asshole. Sometimes I'm even a piece of shit, and I do resemble a gorilla. So it's okay to compare me to all of these things. It's not okay to compare other black folks to any of these things. It's not okay to demonize other black folks. And I want y'all to stop doing this. If you got to demonize someone, just go ahead and single me out and leave everybody else out of it. You want to unite against somebody, do it against me. But you better do it against that damn white man too. But leave each other out of this stuff. Because we were making progress before this. Stop lying in these damn movies too. And these mini-series. Michael Ealy in The Perfect Man is not a realistic depiction of light-skinned black men. That's not true. No, it's not true that light-skinned brothers can't fight, categorically speaking. And here's another thing. If I catch one of you in person, anybody in person that goes easy on white folk and then goes hard on my phenotype, we're going to fight. I'm going to take a stick and I'm going to start hitting you in the head with it. I'm not going to give you a chance to fight back or defend yourself. I'm not fighting fair. Fair is when I win. Regardless of what your phenotype is, you go in on someone like me and you let white folks off the hook lightly, it's a fight. And God forbid you press charges. I think I've said enough. The blackest of the black sign a black out. Assalamu alaikum, and black heterosexual male power just because they don't like it.